Hi, my name's Ann, and I am here to welcome you to our So Fun for March. We're so excited to have everyone with us. If you'd like, you can post where you're watching this from. We like to see where we have friends, and we also welcome all of our So Fun members. We're so excited to be here with you today. We've got some really fun, fast projects for you to start out on your spring sewing. First of all, I'd like to just tell you about our page that you can either download it from this feed. There is a link on it, or you can go to our website, okay? And the other thing that I wanted to tell you about is the door prizes. We'll be giving out 3 door prizes during our Facebook Live today. And all you need to do is like, comment, or share. And then 3 individuals will be announced. Those winners should send us a message here on Facebook and let us know which store that you'd like to pick your prize up, along with a phone number. And then we have 3 additional prizes which will be selected on Tuesday, March 9th at noon Pacific Standard Time. We are in the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area, and so it will be on the 9th at noon Pacific Standard Time. And please post a picture after our live feed is finished, and you will that you've made in the comment section after this presentation is over. So you need to wait until we're finished, and then you can post, and you will be put in our drawing for our 3 door prizes on the 9th. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with what Gail and I are wearing, and this is a really fun pattern, and it's called the Quick and Easy Tee, Tunic, or Dress. And it's a very simple pattern. It's a fun one to wear. You can make it out of either knit or you can make it out of woven. Mine is a knit, Gail's is a woven. You'll be seeing that in just a second. It has dolman sleeves here. You can do a little cap sleeve or you can do the dolman sleeve. It's simple to put together. You can put extra little pockets here. I chose not to because I didn't want to add anything to my waist here, but Gail put them in hers and they're very, very fun. So the choice is yours. Now, one of the things that I will tell you about this pattern, there are 4 to 5 inches ease in the bust. So it is a very generous pattern, and we have a wide range of sizes. The sizes go from 6 to 26. So it's a great pattern and a fun one to do. I did mine all on the serger, and I did it within a couple of hours. And so if you just want something fun to make for the upcoming spring and summer, you can make it with the dolman sleeves or you can make it with a cap sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gail, and she's going to show you what she did.
Hi everybody, my name is Gail. Nice to be with you today. So yes, this is my version. I also did the dolman sleeves, and I put the pockets in the front. So in the t-shirt style, you're gonna be less this bottom section, so you can put your pockets in the side seams. So the pockets would face this way. Then we've got a band at the bottom to kind of finish things off, and a little band for the sleeves. Or this bottom section can be much longer to make the dress. But mine is a linen. As Anne said, lots of room and very, very comfortable. So nice pattern. When you're doing garments, most times, when you're doing quilts and you got lots of straight lines, rotary cutters are great. But when it comes to cutting out your garment patterns, you're probably going to go back to using your scissors. So in many of our sewing rooms, we have many, many pairs of scissors. And I'm sure you know exactly which ones belong for fabric and which ones belong for paper. But you may have someone else in your household, maybe a spouse or kids, who might not know that secret formula, and you do not want them using your fabric scissors for paper. So we do have these little scissor ID, and I will put that right, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Scissor ID, there's 3 of them in here. There are little magnets that just clip on your scissors, and they have little labels on them that say fabric, paper, or thread. So you can separate those out and you won't be angry with your family when they use the wrong scissors. Okay, the next item that we have today is from Studio Cat Designs, and this is the perfect handbag notion. Think of this like a carabiner, but much prettier. So if you're gonna have a nice purse, you don't want that, you know, ugly little hook on there. So these are nice, and they come in silver and they come in gold, and they are called a zipper lock because you can hook that around the little edge of your purse. You have your purse open, you have your purse closed, and it's just a little way to lock that. So when you have that on your shoulder, somebody's not going to come by and try to unzip that when you're not paying attention. Okay, so it's just one extra step for somebody to have to go through to try to get inside your purse when you don't want them to. You could also use it on your keychain to hang it on here, and you'd always find your keys, or anywhere else that you need a fancy little hook that just looks like nice, classy hardware. Comes in gold and silver. All right.
People are asking what the pattern is again for the shirt, and then can the shirt be made out of knit, or what is it designed to be made out of?
You can make it out of either one. Mine's woven, and Anne's is a knit, and the pattern is from C&J Pattern Company.
And where can they get that?
On our website. Yep, there's a link at the bottom, and all of the products that we're going to talk about today are going to be able to link over on our website, qualitysewing.com. All right. So the next pattern that I'm going to talk to is actually an embroidery CD. And I say CD because they don't always come in CD format anymore. One of these is actually a code where you're going to download the designs. But these are embroidery files. And there are 2. They kind of go together. We have placemats and we have mug rugs. And I'm going to start with the placemats. These are called seasonal swirl placemats, and they have 4 different seasons, and they're from a company by the woman is Emily Scott who does this, and her technique is called edge-to-edge quilting, and she's taken this from the quilt into a smaller project. So the nice thing about the placemats, I think, is you do all 4 placemats at the same time. So there's many projects where I have 1 or 2 placemats, but not a full set because I get bored. But this time you do all 4 at the same time, and then you're completely finished. So we're going to wander over to the sewing machine for just a moment, and I'm going to share a couple of ideas on this technique. So here is my placemat, and here is my matching mug rug. Now there are 4 for 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. This is spring, and I have a demo over here set up. So you do the quilting in the hoop, and you put the elements, the design, my colored flowers, my embroidered ones, on there first. And I have not done that part, but you're going to do it in sections according to the pattern, because you don't want that embroidery design to show through the back. But once you get the designs on there, then you're going to do the quilting in the hoop. Now I have a magnetic hoop on here. This type of magnetic hoop is from they're called a monster hoop, and that's available on our website as well. They fit any machine. You can do it on a Brother, you can do it on a Faux, you can do it on a Bernina, even a multi-needle. They're a wonderful hoop. If you happen to have a Luminaire or a Luminaire 2, Solaris, or 10 needle, they have a new magnetic hoop that I'll show you here in just a minute. Once you figure out where these designs need to go, this is her quilting portion of the placemats, and you're going to do it all in the embroidery hoop. The designs start here, do their decoration, and end over here, and then you just connect them. The next one is going to connect here and continue to go. So I have my first one stitched out, and you'll notice I put my design, I went into my design and advanced my stitches to stitch number 1. Instead of the center, I'm now exactly where my design started, and I need to start here and continue off to the right. So I'm going to remove the magnetic part of the hoop, leave the whole thing in the machine, slide this over. I'm going to sink the needle right in that first stitch, or the last stitch is now going to be the first stitch. Kind of straighten things up a little bit and put my hoop back on. And it's that easy. I'm rehooped.
Is there a magnetic hoop for the Baby Lock Destiny 2?
Yes. And they come in different sizes. This is the same size that you can get for the Destiny 2, the largest one, 9.5 by 14. But they come small, medium, and large. So once I have shifted this and make sure that it's all straight, then I would just hit go, and it's going to continue stitching exactly where my last one left off. So after I have my field of embroidery, then I'm going to cut my placemats apart and I'm going to bind them. You'll notice on the layout there's some extra around the outside edges. 1 yard front and back will make 4 placemats. But all this extra, I did the placemats first, and I used that extra fabric to bind my placemats, the backing fabric and the front fabric I used to make my mug rugs. So no waste.
Gail,
Yes.
I'm getting a lot of questions on various machines.
Mm-hmm.
Would you direct them perhaps to go to the website to find out what hoops will fit with which machines?
Sure. So this is, these are called the Snap Monster hoops. They can be found on our website, qualitysewing.com, and there is a whole long list, many different brands. They'll fit any of your machines, and there's a description. Once you find that hoop selection, on the right-hand side, it'll say fits your Brother Baby Lock, fits your Bernina, fits your Faux, and what size the hoop is and what the price is.
Does the magnetic hoop interfere with the electronics in the machine?
No, it does not.
And then do you
Works
have
great.
batting underneath that?
You would have batting. I do not for this particular sample, but it would be in the middle. Not, you've got fabric on the back, which is your backing fabric for your placemats, and then your fabric on the top. And the quilting, what I just did, the pattern is actually quilting everything together. So when you're done, you're done. As I said before, your embroidery designs would be done first. Upside down, sorry. And when you're done, those white lines is where the 4 placemats get cut apart. So you've got all 4 projects done at the same time. And then, like I said, these were done with the scraps. So Anne has her placemats over there.
It says, why do you need to set the stitch to number 1?
I set advanced the design to stitch number 1 so that it would have the needle exactly where that first stitch is going to stitch. Before, my needle is showing in the very center of the design, and that's not going to tell me where I need to hoop it.
And then they're asking if you can show the patterns much closer to the camera. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, Anne has her samples over there.
Yes. I really enjoyed doing these because I love edge to edge. And as Gail said, actually there are 2 different things that you can do with this. You can either do embroidery. There are 2 designs for embroidery, excuse me, or 2 applique designs. And so I decided to do the applique design. And I am using some of the grunge fabric that we have here at Quality Sewing. A lot of our stores sell fabric now. And this is the grunge fabric that I picked up here at the Tukwila store. And I think it just turned out fun. And then this is the back. And as I say, this is an applique. And your embroidery is going to go over your applique. And I didn't know if I really liked that, but once I did it, I thought it looks very nice. And one of the nice things about this is that the embroidery design from the edge to edge, it fits perfectly for 2 columns on your placemats. And so each 2 placemats will have 2 columns of stitching. And so these are the placemats that I did, and of course I did 4 because we can do 4 all at once. And then this is the fall. Actually, this is summer with the sunflower, and this is fall with the leaf, and this is summer with the little sunflower. So this is an applique, this is an applique, and my placemats have an applique as well. So that was just a really fun project, one that it works up actually quite quickly. So now it is time for our first door prize. And we have this great pattern. I love this pattern. I actually have it in my my guest bath, and I put my washcloths. I roll my washcloths up and I put it in. It has a little ruffle around it, and it's just a really fun basket to make. And that goes to Renee de Hurt. And so I hope I pronounced that name right. And so Renee, if you would just
Send us a private message on Facebook.
They what?
Send us a private message on Facebook.
Okay, send a private message on Facebook, and we will have this for you. I'm excited for you to have it because it is a really fun basket to make. Okay, we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about a couple of fun, small little bags that we've made. And the first one that I'm going to talk about, this is called the Stacia bag. And it is a quilt as you go, which is really fun. I love things that are quilt as you go. And this pouch finishes up this size, but you can enlarge any pattern that you want. If you want a little bit bigger, you just have to enlarge the dimensions. And this just takes leftover scraps of your, these are actually 1.5 inch leftover from a jelly roll that I cut down. I've got a lot of 2.5 inch strips kind of left over from projects that I do. And so that's what I used on this. I also used, you can use Annie's Soft and Stable in this bag, or I use the Pellon sew-in foam. And so either one will work just fine. It's easy to put together. You can angle the top, and I chose to angle the top, but when Gail talks about her, she has a different application there, which they do suggest in the pattern. It's a very simple pattern, as it's quilt as you go. One thing I wanted to tell you, I wasn't as careful matching the sides of my zipper as I should have been. And so I did get a little bit of a pucker right there in the zipper tape. But if you'll make marks exactly across from each other on your zipper tape, then this won't happen. And you just open it up and it is fully lined. And so it's just a fun little thing. Now, if you wanted to make this for a makeup bag, you could laminate your fabric. And you can find stuff to laminate your fabric with all over at fabric stores and things like that. Sometimes when we're working on small projects, it's really handy to have a smaller ruler. And these are the rulers from Quilter Select. I had never used one of these before. And so when we got them in, I have seen them used. Some of the gals at my retreat use them. And they are fabulous because they do not move at all. You can put them down on your fabric and they just stay right where you put it. And so that makes it a lot easier when you're working on small projects like this to have a smaller ruler. And along with that, we have the cases for your rotary cutter. And we also have the Kai 28 millimeter rotary cutter. And this is of course, it's a Kai. We love Kai scissors. And it's nice to have a smaller rotary cutter. And also, if you want to use a rotary cutter on your garments, you want to use a smaller one, and you can use a rotary cutter to cut out garments, but the smaller one makes it nice to go around curves. So we do have this. You can choose whether you have a soft or a hard pressure or cut on it by just moving this little dial back and forth. And it's just a great little rotary cutter. And then you also have a guard that you can place on it. Be very careful if you've got little people around your house, and I have a couple little grandsons that love to get into grandma's sewing room. So whenever I'm finished with my rotary cutter, I always hang it back up on the wall because you never know if their little hands are going to get it. I love this case, and you can carry more than one rotary cutter in it. If you notice, you can put your rotary cutter in it, and I thought it would be great to just put little sewing notions along with it because it is hard-sided and it just zips open. There's a lot of room on the inside, and it comes, excuse me, it comes in green, and it also comes in pink. And this is the Cut It Out rotary cutting case, okay?
Will those cases hold a 45 millimeter or a 60 millimeter rotary cutter?
Yes, yes, they will. We just decided, this is fairly new on the market, and we just decided that we would bring in the smaller one. But yes, you can put any size rotary cutter in these. So that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, Gail?
All right. Lost my place. The Stacia bag. Yes. So here is my bag. And as Anne mentioned, I did not do a curve. There's also the option in the pattern just to leave it straight across the top. And I actually did this bag after I had done a different little bag. And so I changed my zipper to match the other one because I liked it so well. And what you do is put a little piece of fabric at the end of each zipper so that the fabric is actually what gets folded into these side seams. So there's not quite so much bulk. Your zipper actually ends right here. And so I like that idea. I just tucked it in there. My strips were actually left over from a previous Sew Fun project. These were just bits of a jelly roll that were kind of left over, just the perfect length for using up your scraps. And my bottom is a little bit wider than Anne, so I don't have quite so much bottom fabric showing, but you can make it any which way that you like. So great little bag, lined to put whatever you want in there. All right. Next, we want to talk about a pattern called Room with a View. And this is a box style compartment or bag, but it's shaped like a box. Mine is right here. And they have a window in the front. So you can use clear vinyl, and you can also use colored vinyl. This is a pattern from By Annie's, and we constructed it Here's, like I said, here's mine. I used colored vinyl in the front, but you can see exactly what's in the box. To make it stand up and make it stiff, we have used Soft and Stable. This is also by Annie's, and available in white and black and different sized pieces. This particular package happens to be a 1 yard by 58. I have the medium sized box. It has handle on the front, or the top, I'm sorry, and handles on the sides. You could load this with toys, with thread, with fabric, with just about anything you'd like. Zippers on the front, go all the way around. You open it up, there's a little mesh pocket up here to put stuff as well. So 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. This is the medium. And let me show you the vinyl really quick. So I used the green vinyls in my sample. And these are Kimberbell Sweet as Candy vinyl. And there are 4 different shades. There's a really, really dark, and they get lighter and lighter. Can you? Okay. So you get 2 sheets of each one. So that's what I used in my front window there. But you can make little coin purses out of them. You can use it for any kind of bag, and you can see right through into the inside. Anne has pink in her samples, so they also come in shades of pink. And again, 4 different shades of pinks, so whether you like pinks or greens. And then Anne has her case over there that she is going to...
Okay, I'd make a lot of Annie's bags. I love them, I use them. They're wonderful, and I think this is one of the easier ones, at least it was for me. It doesn't take as much time, nearly as much time. Most of the time you'll spend is in quilting and cutting out your fabrics. Now, I wanted to tell you something about quilting. I grid quilted. This is actually the large size here, and I grid quilted it, you know, up and down. I would not do that again. I would quilt, if I'm going to do some quilting on it, and you do need to quilt it, I would do it diagonally, because can you see here, because one of my rows of quilting goes close to the bottom, it kind of folds in here. I made this for my daughter. She wanted it to store all of her threads in, so it really won't matter, but to me it mattered because I wanted it to be perfect. But you know what, in the big scheme of things, it's fine. But that is one thing that I would tell you, is to cross-hatch quilt for this particular pattern. You don't have to do it on the lid, but I would probably do it so that it matches. It has a handle at the top. It has handles on the side. Now, I worked with a one-way fabric, and so you need to pay particular attention. One of the things that I love about Annie's bags is she always gives you a companion video to go along with it. And I love to read patterns, but I also love to see things visually. And I think it really helps. She is a master educator because she does such wonderful videos. And anytime you buy her pattern, she will have a companion video to go along with it. And so that's one of the advantages of using her patterns. And as I said, this is the large size. I actually had all of this fabric. Yes?
They want to know, what needle do you use to stitch through the vinyl?
I just use, I try to use the smallest needle possible so that the holes aren't big. And I do most everything with a 75, but sometimes when you're working on heavier things, heavier fabrics like this, you're going to be fine with a 90 because you're going to be having a couple of pieces of fabric in between that vinyl, and so I don't think it's a problem at all to use. One of the needles that I use a lot are the Schmetz non-stick needles, and I do believe I used a Schmetz non-stick 14 on this bag. And so it was really fun to put together. I had this vintage Simplicity fabric, and then I had a bunch of spool fabric. Now, I did make a mistake, and if you look really closely, everybody likes to know that we're not perfect and we make lots of mistakes, just like everybody else. I didn't pay particular enough attention, and my spools are running up on my lid, but you really can't even tell. Now, one of the things that I love to do, and this is not in the pattern, but when I put a zipper in, I like to bind my mesh first, and I use, I think, a 2 1/4 inch binding, and then I put it on like you would a quilt binding. You press it wrong sides together, stitch it on the wrong side, flip it to the right side, and then once you stitch, and this will be the stitching on the bottom here, and then you just stitch your zipper in here, and it just finishes it off and it gives it a little bit more stability. That's something I've been doing ever since I started doing Annie's bags. And then you can see that it's finished off in the front, in the inside by the bias, or it's not bias, it's straight grain binding. But it was just a really fun one to put together because it didn't take me as much time as some of the other Annie's bags take. So that was a fun one there. Okay, what I wanted to do is, I have been doing a technique with binding. It's kind of like a faux closure on your binding. I've been doing it for many, many, many years. I don't use it on quilts, but I definitely use it on small projects like this. I use it on table runners, and I use it on table runners. Oh, placemats is what I wanted to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that technique right now. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the machine, and I'm going to show you how to start and end your binding. Now, I did put these instructions on our website years ago, and so if you just go to the inspiration tab, go to the blog, scroll to the bottom, and you'll find tips and tricks, and then it's on page 2, and it's called Anne's Starting and Ending Binding. And I do have pictures of how to do the binding, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. As I say, I don't use it on quilts, but it is really handy to do it on small projects. So I also wanted to show you right here, these are my little thread snip scissors, and we have a little magnetic indicator for your threads, so that's kind of a fun thing. So I have the Move It foot on. Okay. Whoops, I pushed the wrong button. I don't have this machine at home, but I have a dream machine. I should know what it is like the same. Okay, so what the Move It foot does is it's a roller foot, and it basically guides your fabric evenly, and you do have adjustments on your machine in the screen that you can adjust it for different thicknesses or different types of fabric. So it's a great one to use when you're using quilting fabric that you've got batting in and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch this on. We're going to pretend like we've turned the corners here, and so we're going to stitch this. Oh, we don't have a foot pedal, so which do I push this button?
Push the green go button.
The green go button. I am a control freak, and I don't know if I can do my demos without, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end that off right there. We're going to pretend like we've gone around, but oh, this, I did something wrong here. I had it pinned together and I didn't realize that it was under it. Okay, so I've already stitched that. So let's back. We're going to start this binding out at the beginning. And so what we're going to do is you take and you cut on a 45-degree angle like this, and then you press your sides together, and then you're going to start on a side. They say that it's better to start on a side, you don't notice it as much. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my presser foot down, and I'm going to stitch, but I'm going to fold this out, and I'm going to stitch to probably right about here. Oh, Gail is she is wonderful. She's brought me a foot pedal. Now I feel like I can be in control. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to stitch. You just stitch maybe a couple inches past that. I'm not going to go much further than that. Okay, so I have stitched just one single layer here. Then I'm going to fold it like this, and I'm just going to kind of peek and see where my stitching ends here. And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch all the way around my quilt. I'm just going to stitch off here just for demo purposes. But you'll see what happens here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this around like this. I'm going to lift up this part I didn't stitch, but before I do that, I'm going to cut. And you just have to kind of angle it by hook or crook. These are actually thread snips. I should have had scissors, but can you see how I cut? Then you just tuck that under, fold that over, and then you start down here where you ended. And as I say, this just works really well for small projects. Then what I do is I take that wonderful basting tape, and I cut a little piece, and I iron it here, and I iron it here. You can hand stitch that if you want, but I don't do any hand stitching. And I'm stitching from the back, and then I bring it around to the front, and I roll it down, and you can't even tell where you've joined that. It's so hard to join long tails on small projects. And so this is something that you can use so that you don't have to worry about those long tails. Okay.
And could you repeat where the instructions can be found?
They are on Quality's sewing website right here, and it's called Anne's Starting and Ending the Binding. And if you go to Inspiration, go down to the blog, because there will be different tabs, and then you scroll to the bottom and there's a tips and tricks, and then you just scroll through those and it's on page 2. And it has, I do have the colored pictures and everything here for you. So if you're interested in that, it really is a time-saving thing, and so it's great to do that. Okay.
You have another door prize.
Okay. We have. Sorry about that. I would never want to be perfect. I love doing So Fun, but taping is a different ball game altogether. But we love you, and we know that you love us, and you'll roll with us. So that's great. We have another door prize. This is a clapper. I come from a tailoring background and I love clappers. And you know what? They're using clappers in quilting now. You watch the shows and they're using the wool pressing mats and the clappers. And this goes to Joan Linden. So if you will let us know, send us a private message on Facebook, we will get this to you. We're excited for you to have it. Okay, we are going to move on to a couple of books that we have. I think I'm just gonna do this, if that's okay. We have Tantalizing Table Toppers. This is a great book for table toppers. It has over 20 different projects in it. It's not all table toppers. There's some home deck or kitchen type items in it, but there's also a lot of table runner patterns in it. And we have some to show you here. Now, these table toppers, at least the ones that I made, they go together very quickly. You will see some ideas out of our second book. This is called Creative Straight Line Quilting. If you don't enjoy doing free motion, this is a very freeing type of quilting that you can do. And so what Gail and I have done, at least actually what I've done on all three of my table runners, is I have used ideas from this book to quilt. So we're going to kind of be mixing the two books together here. This book is divided into 3 different sections. You have ideas for triangular blocks, you have ideas for square blocks, and then you have ideas for borders. So there's just tons and tons of ideas. She gives you a lot of information on how to set things up. Really, all you need is a sewing machine that stitches straight and a way to mark. Now you can see that there's triangular blocks, many different ideas. They range from very easy to a little bit more design within the triangle. There's square blocks here, and then there's border ideas. And so it really is a very complete book. If you want to get away from having to free motion, or even if you love to free motion, it's kind of fun to change up and do something a little bit different. So those are the 2 books. Normally we don't mix the 2 books together, but we have used the ideas from both books on our samples. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with this table runner. And this is called Where All Roads Lead. And it's fun. All you have to do is you have to have 3/4 yard pieces of fabric, and then this white road you have to have a 1/2 yard. A lot of these table runners don't take much, and you know what? There is a positive to having, I've been using a lot of my stash since we have been in lockdown. So that's one of the positive things. And most everything that I've done thus far today has been basically out of my resource center, or I like to call it a stash. I'm lazy, but I like to call it that. These are really fun ideas to do, and I have used a couple of ideas from the book. This one is radiating lines here. This one, you do all of this continuously. So you don't have to stop, you don't have to cut your threads, you do it continuously. So on this block, I used the radiating lines. On this one, this was a border design here. And then on these right here, I just followed the shape of the block. So you can do that. Another thing that you can do is you can use the edge of your presser foot to do your measuring. I did mine the traditional way, and Gail's going to share with you how she did hers. So there basically is a couple of different ways that you can do this type of quilting. You will, if you do it the traditional way, you will have to do some marking, or if you can use the edge of your presser foot. And I use a friction pen, and I also use the iron off chalk in a stubby little chalk liner if I want to make any marks. But you do have to have some marks. And I found that on doing this, starting in the middle of the V here helps you to get it a lot more even. And so that is one suggestion that I would have for that. This is called frequency. I have to tell you, those people that know me know that I just go for the gusto, and I like a lot of stuff going on. This table runner has a lot of stuff going on, starting with my focus fabric. I love paisley, and I've had this in my stash for quite a while, and so I pulled all of this out and just coordinated it together. Actually, you don't need much for this table runner. I can't remember just exactly how much you need, but I just use scraps. So these table runners are really great for scraps. And on this right here, I did a 30-degree crosshatch. This is another example out of the book, and I can tell you what it is called. It is called let's see, yeah. Oh, this one is called double triangle here. And the other one is called the aqua. There's too much for me to remember here. Disappearing square is on the teal, and you notice it's two different designs. And then this is just a border design here. And it's just, I just use the edge of my presser foot to do that. There's a lot of quilting on it, you can see from the back, but it was really a lot of fun. Another idea out of the book is making double-sided napkins. And so I decided that I would do a couple of double-sided napkins to match with my table runner here. And so these are just scraps that I had left over. And it just makes a nice little idea. They say to cut them 19 inches. I thought that was too big. I cut about 17 inches, and then I just take a 1/4 inch or a 3/8 inch seam. You can make these very, very quickly. I probably won't use these as napkins. I probably will use them in baskets because I like to put rolls and things like that. And that's where I use these more so than, how many of us use cloth napkins anymore? Oh, Lori, you're one of a few. I have a lot that I made years ago, and I don't use them. I'm getting very lazy in my old age. Okay, the last table runner that I wanted to show you, this is not in the book, but I wanted to show you a beautiful way of quilting triangles. And this one I cut on my Go Cutter. I have a 12-inch set of blocks, and it worked really, really nicely here. Are we supposed to be doing this right now? Okay. Sometimes I don't look at the schedule like I should. This is called the Top Ray Runner, and I wanted to show you, these are all half square triangles, and they're put together. And I wanted to show you something that I have shown before for the ladies before in So Fun. What you want to do is you want to fan your seams open. You want to undo, there's a little stitching here, and you undo it, and then you press it out, and you will have 4 little squares. And that's called fanning your seam. So if you notice right here, this is what you will be doing, and that makes everything lay down flat. Especially, you can use it on square, the squares that you stitch, or the together, but especially when you are doing triangles. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over to the machine after Gail. Do you want to do yours first, or do you want me to do the demo?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to show you how to continuously stitch the top ray design on here. And this was a really fun one for me to put together. And as I say, this fabric I've had in my stash for a few years now, so it feels really good to be able to use those. So I am going to go ahead.
Do you want to demo your ruler first, though, before you move?
Yes, that's a good idea. Thank you, Gail. Okay, now if you notice here on the corners, I have mitered the corners, and there is a tool to do this. There are two sizes of the tool, and we brought in the mini one because we were working on table runners, but this is the quick, easy border mitering tool. Now I'm going to repeat that again because we have two tools that are very similar. Gail is going to be showing you one here in just a second. This is the border mitering tool. That is what allows you to miter the borders on your table runners and smaller items. And so I'm going to just show you very quickly how to do this. What you're going to do is you're going to sew your border onto your top, and then you're going to sew within 1/4 of an inch of both pieces. You stop 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and then it is easier if you work with these border. You work from the wrong side here, and this would be out like this. But what you want to do is you want to flip this back, and you want to flip this under, tuck that up so that's out of the way. Lay this out. Now this little tool looks, this little tool looks like a boot. And what you're going to do on one side, you'll be doing it with the writing facing up, and on the other side, you'll be flipping it. So if you notice, you notice here, you have a seam line and you have an edge. This tool has been cut back to allow for a friction pin or whatever to draw your line on. So what you're going to do is you're going to place this down. I've got my seam line right here and my seam line right here lined up. There. And you're going to draw your line here. And I've already drawn it on here. So I'm going to take my fabric scissors that has my little magnet on it, and I'm going to go ahead and cut. And when you cut, you will be about 1/2 inch from where your stitching stops. Okay, so we're going to take and we're going to do this side here, and it's easiest if you keep your borders facing you. It just is easier. So on this one, I'm going to have to flip it around, and I line those up. I draw my line, and then I cut. Now I'm not going to stitch this together, but I do have a sample that is already stitched. But as you can see, you're going to bring those two points together, and I would starch this because you're working with bias, and start at the end here. Don't start down here. They always say to start here and stitch to the markings right here, and that's all you have to do. And you can see that it just turns out beautifully. It really is very nice. Now I do have double borders on here. What you'll do if you want to do a double border, you just stitch them together, and then when you go to miter them at the corner, stick a pin and make sure that they're laying on top of each other, and that's all you have to do. So it's a very quick, easy thing to do. So now I'm going to move over to the machine, and I'm going to show you how to sew continuously quilt this table runner. And once again, I'm going to use the move it foot, and I'm putting an open toe foot on because I like to stitch with an open toe foot. I'm going to just go ahead and leave the thread on that Gail has. And one of the things about using this book is I make a lot of templates. Instead of marking here, 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 I take a template and I just mark around with my friction pen. And that's all I had to do, is I just had to very quickly just draw around it. You've got to mark it somehow, and if you do the traditional way, you've got to mark it somehow. So you can just move that around. And I have stitched these. This is actually a continuous line here. So what you're going to do is you're going to start here in the corner, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to stitch. And I want my needle down. Whoops, did that cut the thread? I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to stitch there. I'm going to turn. I'm going to go up here, sink my needle. I'm going to go this way. I'm not stitching very straight because I'm doing a demo. And you never stitch straight when you're doing a demo. And I'm going to go down here, going to sink my needle, and I'm going to go here, sink my needle, turn around, and go back up here. So that's how you stitch. A lot of these designs are just continuous. They're really fun. They go, some of them take a while to do, but some of them go really fast. This went really fast. I quilted this table runner probably within about a half an hour. So any questions about that? It was just a fun thing. I want to show you over here while I'm here at the machine. I have one of these in my sewing room, and I also have one that I take with me to retreats because I like to have water, or my thing is a Diet Coke. I hate to admit that, but I always have something in this. It's great because it holds your cups, it holds coffee cups. I have a big water bottle that sits in it. And if you'll notice over here, they put little pockets here that you can put some tools in, and then you can put all of your threads here in the garbage can. And my garbage can gets filled up because I have 2 or 3 different garbage cans around. And so this is called the Sensational Sip and Snip. Sorry. And so if you think this would be helpful for your sewing room, you wouldn't have to have it in a sewing room, I guess, but it's one of my favorite things that's in my sewing room. Okay. Thank you.
Someone just commented that would be a great gift for a sewing friend too.
Yes. Yes, that would be a great gift for a sewing friend, definitely.
All right, well, thank you, Anne. Those are great ideas. I did have one item we're going to backtrack just a little bit that I forgot about on the soft and stable. There is one technique that I forgot to share.
You can show them that too.
When you're sewing with foam, soft and stable or any of the others, to make these projects, you're going to quilt that. And in parts of this, she had you quilt just the top fabric, and in other sections she had you put the top, the foam, and the batting, the lining on the back and quilt all 3 layers. But then you're supposed to cut out the shapes of the different pieces and sew about 1/8 of an inch in around the edges, just to kind of flatten things and make sure that they don't pucker. I like to do that sewing first. So I quilt my entire section. I draw out, and I can do it with a ballpoint pen because these are going to be the edges. They're all going to be bound or cut off or something. So it's just a ballpoint pen. I draw that on. I go to my machine and I sew just inside that line, and again at about 1/8 of an inch in. I don't know if you can see on this side I have white thread. So I have 2 layers right there, and then I cut them out on that pen line. And what that does for me, this is what 2 layers without sewing would look like when I'm trying to do a seam. And this is what 2 layers with sewing would do. So it makes it much flatter, much easier to sew your edges. And it makes it more precise. So that is...
Okay, tell them about the 3 rows that she suggests.
Then this is Anne's sample. So she has, as she has stitched down that seam, which is usually 1/4, 3/8.
Annie suggested this, and this is new for her patterns. It's a 3/8 inch.
3/8 inch seam. That's your inside most seam. Then there's another row, and then a 3rd row. And that just makes everything really, really flat, and it makes it accept that binding really, really nice. Just makes everything kind of
Mushes it down.
mushes it down, exactly. All right. And don't forget to go check out those videos. Those are great resources. In addition to how to construct the project that you've bought a pattern for, you also get linked into some basics. How to put in a zipper, how to, I haven't watched all of the videos, how to do bindings, general, that kind of fit all of her different patterns. So there's a whole selection of videos that you get access to when you buy one of her patterns, and you can view them as many times as you need to. Once you own them, once you download them, they're yours. You can go view them anytime you want. So great resources. Picture's worth 1,000 words, right? And a video's worth even more. Okay, I'm going to share my samples from the 2 books. Again, the Tantalizing Table Runners and the Straight Line Quilting. So I have found 3 ways to quilt with that straight line quilting. You've got feed dogs up, walking foot, straight lines, sewing, as Anne did. You have free motion. Just because it's free motion doesn't mean you can't sew straight lines. And you can do that with the aid of a ruler. And this one happens to be Handy Quilter Mini Scallops, but it's got a straight edge. And that allows you to do nice straight lines. And it doesn't say, walking foot quilting designs. It says straight lines. So you can do it that way. And then if you have software and are creative, you can also do it in the embroidery machine. So I went in and digitized some of the designs that they had ideas in the book, and quilted my quilt actually in the embroidery machine. So 3 different ways to do those straight lines. Table runners. First up here, I have the textured table runner. And do you need me to take it down? Okay. So this one is out of the ordinary for a table runner. It has fur, and it has glitter, and it has vinyl, and it has all sorts of fun stuff. Probably will never make it to the dining room table, but just a different way of looking at something. So we've got some cuddle, and we've got some sparkle. This I already had embroidered from a previous Sew Fun. This was a product that we had, that vinyl. So why not just put them all together? And then there's different ways to bind. Each of my things is done a little bit different. This is just a piece of ribbon folded over and sewn down to make a binding. This one is called Color Wave. And to illustrate the different quilting on here, I matched my thread colors with the front because I wanted that quilting to show. And these are just some of the quilting ideas that they have in the book. The radiating triangles. I don't remember all the names of these, but these I really like. Straight lines with a gap in the middle. It just gives you a different look besides, you know, just evenly spaced lines like that. And these opposing tiles. And there is just a little bit of curved lines in here. She does have some ideas in there or some illustrations. All these straight lines, but when you have a space, you can do curves. You know, you don't have to do everything exactly straight. So this is Color Wave. And for this binding, I didn't really bind it. I wanted all of these colors to show the different colors, so I did more of a facing. I sewed my binding on the front, I rolled it to the back, but instead of having it go over the edge, I rolled it all the way to the back and I sewed it down. So it's more like the facing you would find on the collar of a shirt.
Did you use rulers when you quilted this?
Yes, I used this ruler right here for everything on here. So again, Color Wave. These are not in the pattern. The pattern has in the book is all more scrappy. I wanted a little bit different, you know, look. But I wanted to throw in a little bit of color. So I just picked various blocks. So this one is called Farmhouse. And again, I've got quilting in all of these squares. These are all different quilting ideas out of the book. And I'm sorry it's difficult to see on the back because of the tomatoes. This one is just a regular binding. Sew to the back, roll to the front, top stitch.
They're asking to see the ruler again. Maybe hold it against the blue so that it can be seen. Perfect.
Any straight line ruler work. This is ruler work. It's very thick. I have a foot on my machine that allows me to follow right along the edge of the ruler. And they're available for domestic machines as well. If you don't have a large quilting machine, you can still do ruler work. But you have something to follow. So it's very, very nice for all sorts of shapes. So the Farmhouse quilt, and then I did some, or table runner, I did some placemats out of the book. So this is the actual size of the placemat that they suggest in there. This is the jar placemat. Now there's all sorts of vegetable type things in there, but that's not the only thing that goes in jars. So we have bubble gum, and you can do bugs if you have a grandchild or grandson or whoever that wants bugs on their table. But here's some fruit. This one, there are times when my project's dimensions are determined by the piece of fabric that I have. So this is the piece of size that I had, and it was big enough for a placemat. So it's just a couple inches smaller than the one that they suggest. So there is my jar, and that one is also in the book. This one I rolled the back to the front and mitered my edges to do the bindings on these, and that's what I'm going to share our ruler for doing that technique. All right, now this one is very, very different than the one that Anne used. So please be aware of which one you're using. She had a line where you actually draw the line and cut on the line that you drew. This one is totally opposite. The line that you're going to draw is your sewing line. So you don't want to get them mixed up. They do different things. And, sorry, we're going to be working down here. So this one is the quick and easy mitered binding tool. This one is when you want to bring that fabric from the back, roll it around to the front, and give yourself a mitered corner. Here's my mitered corner. This is my backing fabric, and I'm going to roll it to the front. Now this ruler allows you to do that in any width. You can do 1/4 inch, so it looks like a binding. You can do 1 inch, 2 inch. As long as this side and this side are the same width, it's going to come and meet in the corner. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to quilt my project. I have my top and I have my back. When I'm done quilting that out, the edge of my batting is going to determine the edge of my finished project. My backing needs to be cut bigger. For this, I did 2 1/4 and 2 1/4 all the way around all 4 sides. Then I want to finish off my edges before I do my measuring and before I do my cutting and my sewing. So I folded these under 1/4 inch. So my finished size border is going to be 2 inches. This ruler has a line right there and a line right there. That is going to go in my project. I'm going to match up that line and that line with the edge of my top. And I have a nice line right across here. I'm going to tuck these folds down because I want those to be in place. Okay. Then I'm going to take my pencil, pen, whatever, friction pen, and I'm going to mark that line. That is my sewing line. Okay, so do not cut that off. But you can see that line right there. Now I'm just going to fold those like that. And I'm going to match them up. I'm going to get out some pins. That corner is going to match that corner. And these edges are going to be straight. Okay? And I like to start on the edge because I want to make sure that that's exactly perfect. And I'm going to sew into here. And that's what I've done right here. Started sewing there and go all the way to here. I'm going to give it a little bit of clip right there. And I'm going to press these open. And you kind of see the angle that you get. And then I'm going to turn it inside out. Got a little turning tool, poke that edge out, and all I have to do is top stitch right along here, and I've got a perfect mitered corner. This can be done folded under edges, top stitching, blanket stitching, hand stitching. Don't choke. But there are so many different things you can do with this. Because this edge is finished right here, all you have to do is just go around the outside edge. So this is just a couple of random samples. This one, again, back to the front. I've added in a little bit of fabric. Now, if you wanted to attach a little faux piping here first before you fold it, that would already be right on there, and you could sew that down. A little bit of piping, a little bit of color. That's how these corners were done. The double napkin, like Anne mentioned, you've got one block that's much bigger than the other, but no batting, no nothing inside. This is just a napkin. Fold them to the front and do that mitered corner, and it makes nice, quick napkins. just a straight stitch down there. You also don't have to have it finished as far as a fold. This is a serged edge. So don't worry about the corners. The corners get cut off. You know, that piece was all cut off. So don't worry about the corners. So just sew along those straight edges. And I did a serger. This is the front side. So this is the pretty thread. And when I mitered those corners, it came to here. This is just an idea that we had done several years ago. I folded these mitered corners, but I left these edges open. I top stitched right along the edge here to create that fold so it stays folded, but these are removable. So this placemat you can swap out. Maybe you want a different holiday, or you're spilled something, so you can just tuck it in and you've got that look. Again, those mitered corners make that super easy. So, wonderful ruler. They're both great. They have very unique features and very different ways to do them. So, okay. I believe I covered all of the samples out of the book. I did talk about that, Stacia. All right. My ruler. Yes. I do have that other door prize, and that's time for the door prize. There we go. Our third door prize today is a sew line ironing pad. This is a wonderful thing. It's a non-stick Teflon type pad for ironing, and this goes to Pamela Mitchell. Congratulations. So contact us by private message and let us know how you'd like to get this to you. All right. So our next item is another pattern called A Little Something. And this is the little sister to that box with the vinyl pocket in the front where you could see everything that's in it. And this is a little bag. And again, it has either clear vinyl, colored vinyl, or even mesh windows. You can have one in the front or one in both the front and the back. I did a see-through front and back, and I did this small. There's two sizes, small and large. So there's a window in both sides. I've got my threads and a little zipper so you can see what's in the bag. All right, and Anne, you have one as well, I believe. One or two?
I have a couple to share with you. This is a great pattern because I just use scraps. There is one thing that I might do. This was the first one that I did, and it has a single window, a single vinyl window, and it is made with fusible fleece, but I felt like the back needed a little bit more structure, so if I were to make it again, I'd use a scrap of my Annie's Soft and Stable, but I would use fusible fleece in the front. So that is what I would change. I have zipper by the yard. These zippers are so easy to put in. There's a little fabric tabs here like Gail talked about. If you want to, you can enlarge it. You can just, I have a fun time working with numbers. I know Lana doesn't. She hates numbers. But sometimes it's fun to make your patterns a little bit bigger. This one I did with mesh on both sides. And again, this was just scraps of mesh, scraps of fabric. And this does have the fusible fleece on both sides. I have foam in this. I have fleece in this and foam. What I wanted to do is I wanted to show you how they make the window. This is a super easy bag and her instructions are great. This is a finished side of the window, and all you're going to do to get that is you're going to take your side, you're going to fold right sides together, You're going to slip that vinyl in, and just like you would a page of a book, and you're going to stitch it down here. That's all you have to do. Then you just fold it back, and guess what? You have your window all completed. So that's just, I've never seen this done before. Doesn't mean that it hasn't been done, but I think it's a really innovative way to capture that vinyl. Now, when you're sewing on vinyl, a couple of tips. Use a Teflon foot if you need to, but you know what? I just put that paper underneath the vinyl. I stitch right over it. The needle perforates it. You just pull it off, and there's no residue from the paper at all. And so these are just really fast, fun projects to do. We're going to go ahead and move on, and we're going to talk about Tula Pink. Tula Pink is very, very popular and has been for quite a few years, and she has her own line of fabrics. Some of our quality sewing stores still have some Tula Pink fabric, and that's what I've made my samples out of today. There are 16 different designs. This is called line work, and it goes along with her line of fabric. And you can see all the wonderful designs here. They're not all animals. There is a spray design. She does a lot of things with lemurs. There's quite a few lemur designs. And I just wanted to try one out, and so I just did a dish towel. If you want to try a design out, stitching them out on a dish towel is great because you can use it as a gift. I like to keep dish towels in my stash for giving as gifts. And this is some of this actually isn't her fabric, but the bottom is the lemur fabric. And it's really cute. I think my favorite design on this, I didn't do this skunk. Oops, sorry. This skunk is so stinking cute. And I printed out, I was going to do it on something, and then I never got it done. But he is so darn cute. So lots of fun with the designs. Now, this is the panda bear. This is actually on the back of the purse. I make so many purses, I decided, you know what, I want to use this pattern. This is actually a very old pattern that I have. It's called the Milano bag. But this is her fabric. The polka dots are her fabric as well. And then I embroidered this on, it's a rayon cotton fabric that has ridges here, and it embroiders very nicely. But what I do is I like to starch my fabric, and I like to then I like to back it with something, and I did back this with 911. And once I got it on and I stitched it with a straight stitch, and I don't know if you can see this, but whenever I do a satin stitch, I always use the Zorro stitch that goes straight across and down. It gives you a better zigzag. All of your machines will have a Z stitch or a Zorro stitch. And then I go to the side, each side, with a triple straight stitch. And that just frames it, and it just makes it look so much better. And if you don't stitch straight, it compensates for your wobbly, okay? And then this fabric frayed a lot when I put it onto the bag. And so guess what I did? It's a trick that I learned years ago. I just took, it had little white things because this is rayon and it frayed. I just took a Sharpie pen and colored them in, and you can't tell. So you can certainly do that. And this bag is just interfaced with Decor Bond, which is a craft interfacing. Okay, so the last thing I did, I really wanted to do this design on my chambray shirt because I'm a cowgirl at heart, and it kind of reminds me of kind of Western stuff. And so I just did the spray on one side, and then on the back I just combined it and used a couple of the designs. And you know what? This is something I will wear. I don't wear a lot of stuff that I make for sofa, but I will wear this because it just kind of spoke to me. So I'm going to turn it over to Gail, and she's going to show you the fabulous things that she did.
Thank you, Anne. First I took the zebra and I made a cute little pillow. So I showed this to a few people and I didn't really understand the saying, so I guess I have to share. I watch a lot of medical shows, and there's a saying out there that says, you know, when you're looking at symptoms and things, if you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras, because, you know, it's more common, and don't look for that, you know, unique 1 in a million type disease. Well, this, I think you need to dream, right? If you hear hoofbeats, think pink zebras, right? So all of Tula Pink stuff in her Lineworks designs has a lot of gray and black or black and white, and then just a little touch of color here and there. So we've got little pink ears and a little pink rump on our zebra. So the pillow was finished off with this ruched cording, which I made with the ruffler on my sewing machine. Okay, now the quilt. So this is the peacock design that is on the CD as you see it on the CD. All of the other blocks here use either this single element, which I have manipulated in my Floriani software to look like a circular design. There's several different ones. I've turned them this way, turn them that way. Think of a kaleidoscope. You take one thing and you twist it and you turn it, and you add the mirrors and you get a whole different look, right? The rest of these were done with this single element, and this is on the CD. So you don't have to, you know, erase anything to get to this. This is your first element, and I've just used 12 of those in a circle to make that design, or that design, or that design. And some of them have 6, and some of them have some flipped out, some flipped in. Now there are some tutorials on how to do this on a video that will be linked to this
on the landing page on the website.
On the landing page of our website. So that's thequalitysewing.com. And other softwares are able to do it, but I did my video with the Floriani software circle template tool. So you can watch that and see exactly how I took the one item and ended up with these. So as I mentioned earlier, some of these blocks, I was able to take some of the ideas out of that straight line quilting book and bring them into the software and create them. They're simple blocks, and then I hooped them up with my magnetic hoop and embroidered the quilting on each of these blocks. So put you know, that fabric on the back, and I have a nice quilt. All right, so that's
We're going to talk about how.
yes, I mean, that's all for me. I mean, that's all that I have out of that book. And we're going to take it back to Anne, and she's going to share some stuff about Minky.
I had a lot of fun doing, I'm just going to go through this very quickly. I have a couple of quilts here, and I started out with 10-inch strips, and then I cut them in half. And I actually, these two quilts, obviously this has some cotton added to it, but I still have enough left over to do another one of these quilts here. So this one was the one I did first, and I've done these quilts through the years. It's quilt as you go, and you have your Minky on the back. And I just, what it is you can go on shannonfabrics.com, and this is the Wee One quilt, and this is the pattern for it, and it's 27 by about 27, okay? So that's a free pattern. You can also get They tell you quilting with cuddle and how to do the stitch and flip. And then there's a bunch of patterns, free patterns. I just copied off a couple of them here. This actually is one that's been on Facebook just in the last few weeks. They've been sharing that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with cuddle. Remember I told you that I make templates because it makes it go faster. So on this one, obviously all I did was just do a stitch and flip, and then I used a little bit of glue stick to glue it down, and so you're quilting as you go. And then I used the tool that Gail demoed to miter my corners here. So that was just, this is just a really nice size for kids. I'll take this one down so you don't have to move. This one, I've made quilts like this. Actually, it was a free pattern that I got a few years ago, and I couldn't find it, so I just sort of did my own thing. And this was also left over from the small quilt that I did, and I just used what I had in my stash. It's not what I would have probably if I would have gone out and bought it. And I'll tell you why. I really liked these together, but this quilting design, it's not the right one for the fabrics, but it's what I had. I wasn't going out. I'm tired of being told that I'm old. Every day, many times. So I don't go out a lot, and so I just had to use what I had. And so I decided to do it, and guess what? The surprise was the back. I think it's just beautiful. Actually, this Minky, the dot Minky, is kind of my favorite Minky. It's the one that came out first, but it's easy to work with and it's easy to quilt. So how I quilted this, I used my embroidery machine like Gail did on her quilt. And so I made myself a template that I could put onto the block, and I could put my 5 marks so that I could line it up in my embroidery hoop. I do that the old-fashioned way of just doing my cross hatch and lining it up, and I just made a template and I just slapped it down and it went really, really fast. So that's all that we're gonna talk to you about today. We're so happy that you've joined us.
Could you share the website address for the Cutting Stripes quilt you go?
Yes, it's on shannonfabrics.com. And all of these things came off of that one website. And they have a section for free patterns and things like that. So you just go to shannonfabrics.com. If you buy if you buy any pre-cuts, they have a QR scanner, a symbol, and I did this on my phone because I have that app on my phone. You could just go to that and it will take you to all of the free patterns as well. So you can access them a couple of different ways on that.
So someone was asking, is it hard to stitch with Minky?
It is not hard to stitch with Minky. You're going to want to use a size 14 needle, and you want to probably use a ballpoint or a stretch needle because Minky is kind of knit. And so, yeah, it's not hard. If you have your batting, what I did was I took my Minky backing and I cut it larger, and then I used spray adhesive to put it onto my batting. So that was one sandwich, and then you just start stitch and flip, stitch and flip, stitch and flip.
And a couple people will ask questions on how this attaches to your table. So could you just show them that end so they can see it?
Okay. Yes, if I don't drop this.
So it just screws on.
I think it's going to go all the way down to the bottom.
It would, but you don't have to. just anything that fits.
Well, yeah, anything that fits. Gail always knows how to cut through the
And
the
then,
fluff.
and then someone else was asking, do you use batting when you are sewing with Minky?
You can, it's your choice. Some people do, some people don't. I like to use a batting. I just use scraps left over from quilts. But yeah, it almost makes it easier if you make a sandwich with your backing and your batting, and then you do a stitch and flip, or you do embroidery or whatever. It makes it a lot easier in my opinion, but that's just my experience with it. I usually like to put batting. Okay, well, we are so happy that you joined us today, and if you have any questions, just post them, and we will be here to answer your questions, and have a very happy and safe March.